Black GI? Is it fair to serve more than the white Americans that sent you here? Nothing is more confused than to be ordered into a war to die without the faintest idea of what's going on. I dedicate this next record to the soul brothers of the 1st Infantry Divisions. Be safe.
Well, leave it to Spike Lee to come along just at the right time. This wasn't planned. This Netflix date has been in the works for a long time, as has the movie Da 5 Bloods. But nevertheless, Spike Lee is bringing his latest film out, and it gives us a lot of food for thought about what has been going on in this country and in this world, sort of inadvertently. But isn't that true of every Spike Lee film? He is not shy in putting the real world into his stories and making a hell of a movie at the same time. He proved that most recently with Black Klansman, which was nominated for Best Picture, won Spike and his co-writers the Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay, and one of Spike's best movies, I think. And his 1989 classic Do the Right Thing has now proven more prescient than ever, more urgent than ever, 30 years after its release. It's quite extraordinary that this filmmaker goes and goes and goes and keeps saying things. And in Da 5 Bloods, what he has to say is very interesting. He's going back to another very divisive time in this country, the Vietnam War, but he's looking at it through the lens of the African American experience there. African Americans who were sent there 3 times more than white soldiers to fight a war they weren't able to celebrate in themselves back home. And that is the sad fact of it. Well, the movie actually is set in the here and now as 4 vets travel back to Vietnam. 2 reasons to do that. 1, to find the body and bring him back of their beloved commander, Norman, known as Stormin' Norman. Now, he is played in flashback scenes to the late 60s and early 70s by Chadwick Boseman. He's a guy who has a political conscience and is a born leader, but he died during a battle there, and they want to do him justice now.
Look what I found.
Anyway,
Dirty man in all his glory.
who was that guy?
That brother was the best damn soldier that ever lived.
And they are going back to look for the gold that was buried there when they left Vietnam. A lot of gold, and a lot could be done with that. And so those are the 2 reasons that take them back to Vietnam. Now, these are 4 very different kind of men. Life has treated them in different ways. First up is Paul. He's played brilliantly by Delroy Lindo, and he is a man wearing a Make America Great Again hat, a Donald Trump supporter of all things. You look at him and you wonder why, and you can see that here was a guy who life didn't treat very well, who was totally disillusioned, who bought into everything Trump said in the 2016 campaign and fell in line there, much to the chagrin of everybody else that sees him. But you do see that he's suffering still from PTSD, not even knowing what that is, and other things. And then there is Otis, played by Clark Peters, and he is a medic. He was the medic there and may have a daughter that he's never met, left in Vietnam. There's Eddie, who is played by Norm Lewis. He was the most successful of the bunch, very successful in business, but now facing bankruptcy. Also very involved and a big supporter of the Black Lives Matter movement. Again, very timely on the part of Spike Lee here, everything in this movie, no matter what era it's set in. And Melvin, played by Isaiah Whitlock Jr., he's kind of the partier of the group, carefree, happy-go-lucky kind of guy. Going back here, the 4 do. Along for the trip, unexpectedly, shows up as a surprise, is David, Paul's son, played by Jonathan Majors. So great in one of my favorite films last year, The Last Black Man in San Francisco. It was on my top 10. He's coming there, his relationship with his father, a bit strained, but nevertheless, he's along for the ride here. This deals with so many interesting kinds of themes of morality, greed, distrust, how veterans were treated, systemic racism, of course, the African American experience in this war that was not a popular war at all. There's so much food for thought, but it is such an entertaining adventure, action thriller. It's got all the elements. It's got homages galore to Apocalypse Now. But for me, this was like going back to the Treasure of the Sierra Madre, you know, and that big gold hunt in that great John Huston movie. It has that feel, and you're on the edge of your seat throughout this, and it is over 2.5 hours. It didn't feel like it at all for me.
Hold on! In my line of work, I have to be very careful. And that means knowing exactly who I am in business with.
Along the way, there's all kinds of things they run into, trouble they run into, other people. Once they get near the gold, oh my God, there is a scene that is so tense involving landmines. Extraordinary filmmaking. Spike really knows what he's doing with a camera. Shoots this in 3 different ratios. There's a 4:3, which is done for the flashback scenes in Vietnam that do feature Chadwick Boseman as Norm, making these kind of inspiring speeches to his men there. Then the full widescreen scope of 2:40 for the current scenes, and then 1:85 when they're going down the river and getting closer to the jungle, getting closer to the place. I love the way cinematically this thing worked. Just brilliant. It really made me feel, sitting at home, as that's how I had to watch it, theaters still aren't open, that I was really back watching a movie, and that's what this one is all the way. And I have to also point out the score by a Spike Lee regular. Terrence Blanchard is great, almost Aaron Copland-esque in some parts, really vividly done, as is all of Blanchard's work. And then all the songs in here come from one album, the Marvin Gaye album, What's Going On, including that title track, brought to vivid life again here and have such meaning right here, as does this movie. And it's one hell of an entertaining movie, and something to make you think right now. The perfect time for Da 5 Bloods. You can bet that I say watch.